Hello once again, folks. This is Customizing the Clone Wars. I am your host, as always, Peak Obi-Wan, Customizer. And along with me, I have my co-host. He is from the Custom for the Kid blog spot, and his name is Darth Daddy. How you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing really well. Tonight is episode 29 of Customizing the Clone Wars.
Yep.
And it's Cat and Mouse, and which is really the first episode that we got from the series.
Yes.
If you go chronologically, not in order of release.
Yeah. If you haven't seen our show before, folks, we are a custom show. We talk primarily about customizing. And we are walking through the Clone Wars. We're currently in season 2. We're towards the back end of season 2. And we share our customs along the way. Just a couple artists working on action figures. And we design customs that never existed, right?
Yeah, basically it's the characters that never made it to the toy line, weren't produced by Hasbro. And we want them, we made them, and we're here to share them.
Yeah, I just feel like, customizing gives you a sense of freedom that breaks the rules. You know, there are some politics, there are some rules within the toy industries, and you can just break all the rules if you just make it yourself, and I'm a longtime customizer. I've been doing it about 20 years, and tonight we're doing something pretty unique. We are going to talk about the episode and give you guys our insights. But I was asked last week if I could kind of break down kind of my madness, my mind, and we're going to walk through basically the main villain of the episode. His name is Admiral Trench, and I'm going to kind of step by step of what I do to make a custom. So we're going to do that after we talk about the episode, and we're going to just kind of have a little fun along the way. All right, you ready to get started?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Awesome. So here we go. This is, like you said, Cat and Mouse, and it is amazing. We'll talk about it here in a minute. It says, a wise leader knows when to follow. What do you think of that fortune cookie?
It's wise advice.
Yeah.
You definitely want to listen to all the talent you have surrounding you.
Are we talking about Anakin here, you think?
He led more than followed in this one.
Right.
Maybe Lauren, he was more the follower in this one.
Yeah, right.
Where, he had a strategy. He had faced Trench. Lauren had mentioned he had faced Trench in battle before. He knew his tactics, and essentially, he was basically letting out Anakin. That was the talent, I would say, that he kind of tapped into, and I think he had a lot of faith in Anakin in the end. I think he had his worries, but I think Anakin pulled through in the end.
Yeah, and like you said at the start of the show, this was the actual first episode that began the Clone Wars, right? It had all kinds of cool elements. So obviously, if you are a big fan of the Clone Wars, we're going back to Christophsis, the world of Christophsis, where it all began. Because in 2008, they did the theatrical release, and we started on this planet where Anakin and Obi-Wan were. But as we went through season 1 and season 2, we started to see episodes where we went back to this planet, and it was just like, what is going on? And we had come to find out, right, that
this is even before they had Ahsoka in their lives.
Right.
This is pre-Ahsoka.
Yeah, if you piece it together, it's actually a really awesome episode. What I'm talking about is, if you watch, and I encourage you to go do this, if you watch Cat and Mouse, the episode we're talking about right now, and that's from season 2, then you watch season 1, Hidden Enemy, and then you watch the Clone Wars theatrical release, all in order, you kind of get a more well-rounded story, right?
Yeah, it's basically an arc,
yeah,
essentially.
it is an arc, right? And you know what? I just recently found last week we were talking about Senate murders, and I found out that Ken Robb is the senator for this planet.
Oh, no way.
Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah, I found that out. So
That is pretty cool.
that is kind of cool. And you know, in recent news, like non-Clone Wars news, Catalyst just came out, and we've been listening to it, haven't we? And
Oh, yeah,
this,
I'm really impressed with it.
yeah, I'm not going to give too many spoilers, spoiler alert, or anything. I'll just say that they mentioned this world actually in the book, which is cool.
And many beloved characters and people that we've addressed in previous episodes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cool Clone Wars characters that pop up throughout the new Catalyst book.
Yeah, that made me really happy, man. I'm not all the way through it, but I want to keep listening just because they started it during the Clone Wars, and that is awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome for guys like
good.
us. Yeah, yeah, we love the
Yeah.
Clone Wars. So, just fanatics for Clone Wars. I'm a firm believer that George.
I'd like that too because you know, you have all new, like, I think Rogue One is kind of pulling in some of the original trilogy fans because it's close. You know, in their mind, it's closer to New Hope. It sets up New Hope, and I almost feel like with Rogue One, it's bringing people in and from the original trilogy, and it's cool that if some of these people are like, "Oh, I'm going to read Catalyst because I want to know what happens prior to Rogue One," and now they're reading about these Clone Wars characters that they may have never been exposed to, and yeah, maybe it would be interesting to see if there's any like bleed over where all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, I want to learn more about these characters," and maybe they start hitting Netflix, and it would be nice to see some original trilogy people come into the Clone Wars fold.
That would be cool. That would be cool. I would just really like to see that more fleshed out, you know, because we were talking about that earlier today with Rebels, and I'm a big fan of Rebels, but I feel like there's no end game. Like, you know, Disney.
They've always said there was.
Yeah, I hope there is. I really do.
But a story with a definite beginning and a definite ending, and he said there is no filler.
Yeah.
Everything builds upon each other, and everything is important, even though it may not seem important now. I'm having some faith that that's the truth.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, but there has been times where I'm like, oh, I just want to see the connection. You know, like the Clone Wars, I feel like I had a little bit more connection with the end game. You know, what is it all about? That kind of thing. But
yeah. Well, we went into that one knowing the ending.
Yeah. Right.
Essentially. Yeah.
Exactly. And we don't
knew it was all filler.
Yeah. We don't necessarily have a plotted course anymore, right? Yeah.
No, I mean, well, I think from what Dave's saying, it sounds like he knows the end game. It's just he has to wait for the rest of us to catch up.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, let's get back into this episode. We're going to just run through this episode so I can actually get to my process, my madness, so I call it, of Frankensteining toys together. But let's just start this episode real quick. I'll read from the episode guide. It says, a separatist task force commanded by the legendary Admiral Trench is blockading the planet Christophsis. After Anakin fails to break through Trench's lines, Obi-Wan Kenobi arrives with an experimental stealth ship. Its cloaking device renders it invisible and enables Anakin and veteran officer Yularen to play a dangerous game of cat and mouse with the crafty Trench. And that is basically a synopsis of what the story is about. Here they are. They're trying to get through this blockade. Once again, here are the separatists blockading this this planet of Christophsis. And they're trying to give them relief aid because somehow, some way, Bail Organa and his freedom fighters or his relief specialists broke through this blockade, and they're down on the planet, and they have to get him off, right? Or they have to get him off the planet or get him relief, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So they're trying to get through this, but the problem here is that they've come across a formidable foe that pushes them back. Okay, and we'll go back into that. And here we see Anakin, and this is essentially, if you are watching it from Go, this is the first time we see Anakin since. I suppose if you're watching it, or this is the first time we've seen him since like the micro series, or if you don't even like the micro series, this is the first time we've seen him since his wedding, right? His secret wedding.
Yeah, from Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, and he's now a Jedi Knight, so he's leading this task force. He seems like he's just diamond focused and he's ready to go and everything. And he has Yularen with him, and we know Yularen from Star Wars, right? He is.
Yeah, he was one of the people in the conference room in a New Hope.
Yeah, and what's cool about this episode is this is Yularen's introduction to Anakin. You know, this is his first mission with Anakin. Also, he was tasked to be with this Jedi Knight. This is his first appointment, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And along with him, he has clone officers in the back there. And that's going to lead us to our first custom. And you have that to share with us. And we've shared this before, folks, but sometimes we like to share them again because we know maybe you haven't watched the show that, we aired that figure before. So we thought we'd air them again. And I'm going to leave that up to Darth Daddy here. Take it away.
Okay, so this is actually made from Admiral Yularen, who we just saw standing to the left of Anakin. We just took that body, took the head off the heavy action figure, shot a bit of glue from the glue gun in there, and stuck it on the peg while it was still nice and warm. You cut the excess of the whatever glue residue actually comes out from under the jawline and onto the neck post. You just want to cut that away with an X-Acto knife. So that way,
that's a heavy head, right?
Yeah, that's the heavy. And then there was a little bit of sanding right on the rank symbols and a minor paint application just to make them uniform. But that it's a pretty quick figure to do. It's not a difficult one at all.
Cool. Really nice. Thanks for sharing that.
Oh, no problem.
All right. Well, let's get back to this episode here. So yeah, you can see one of the officers in the back there. That's pretty awesome. Yep. His outfit's a little bit more gray though, isn't it?
Yeah, that one has like a lighter color to it.
Yeah. So here we see Bail Organa is actually on the planet, and he has troops with him, and he has relief officers also with him, trying to help out these people because basically it's like Naboo, right? They've invaded the planet, right? They don't really care. They're the separatists now, and they're just going to invade that planet and take it over for their own free will. And speaking of catalysts, I wonder why they're wanting to take over this planet. They talk a little bit about, and like I said, I won't give anything away. They talk a little bit about crystals and having crystals of kyber crystals, right? Crystals of power.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they talk a little bit about that, and that's why they mention this planet. They say that where is a good place where you can get some of these crystals and whatnot, and they mention this planet. So could be the long game. You could be playing the long game, but maybe there are reasons why the separatists are invading certain planets. Maybe they have an agenda. Who knows? But I will move it along. And here we see Admiral Trench for the first time, and he is. They also brought in Worm Loathsome. He was another general that they brought in, kind of a creature character, and they did this a lot, and we actually see a tactical droid. That would be really weird if they actually showed this episode first, because we didn't see tactical droids until the very end of season 1, And then we also see hyena bombers as well, and I'll show you a picture of those. But Trench is basically, he's a tarantula, he's a spider guy. He's awesome. You know, he's got this cool voice, and and I mentioned earlier about the micro series. You know, when they were developing General Grievous, they wanted him to have this kind of voice about him where he was like, "It's going to be your doom," you know.
Yeah.
And they basically adapted that voice for Trench, and he has that same kind of. He's very dramatic about the way he presents himself and talks to these people over top of this kind of this clicking noise.
Yeah.
Or whatever. He's clicking his mandibles or whatever. It's just great. But
that's one of my favorite parts about the character.
Yeah, he's definitely a cool character, a bigger character. I'm going to show you my version, and I feel like I'm going to call myself out before we even get into it. I feel like I made mine a little too tall, but I'll get into the process of this character. But if you're looking at this shot, he's just a huge character all the way around, right? He's just massive. If they actually made this character for retail, he would have just been a huge chunk of plastic, right?
Yep. He was heavily requested too. I mean,
oh man,
I would say next to like someone like Krell or Zero the Hutt, he was right up there as one of the most requested characters from the show.
Yeah. Speaking of Zero the Hutt, I mean, what did we just get from Entertainment Earth? We got that. We got Zero the Hutt bar droid, and that's so cool. But it's like, oh man, that's heartbreaking because we don't have a Zero the Hutt, right?
I know. Yeah.
But we're getting off
the common complaint this Christmas season.
Yeah, right. We're getting off topic here, but this guy would have been huge if they made him, and I made mine extra huge, maybe a little too huge, but we'll get into that here in a moment. So here. Obi-Wan comes onto the scene, and he's like, Anakin, you need to withdraw. I have a little toy that I want to show you. And he shows him basically this ship that has a cloaking device. And that joke from Empire Strikes Back, no ship this small should have a cloaking device. Even Anakin says that line or something like that. And it turns out it's just it's like this needle of a ship. It's just so... Look at the point on the front of that ship. It's awesome.
You can open letters with that thing.
Right? Yeah. And it's just this cool ship. And he's basically going to take this to try to sneak behind enemy lines to just do the relief mission or the what do they call the relief supplies or
bringing supplies? Yeah, relief supplies.
A mercy mission. They called it a mercy mission. Is what they call it, and that harkens back also to what Leia, her excuse to Darth Vader was for being over Tatooine at the time. She said she was on a mercy mission, and that kind of connects. That whole thing kind of connects with this, since we have Bail Organa in here, and here we see the symbol of Trench, and it's on the side of the ship. And Yularen, since he is a he's a veteran officer of the Republic, basically. So he has been in battles for a long time, regardless if the war had started or not. And he knows this guy's tactics. And he sees the symbol, and he's like, "Oh my goodness, this can't be the guy who I think it is," because we thought he went down with the ship, right? He was in. There was even history lessons at the Jedi Temple talking about what is it, the Battle of Mallister and Eros or something like that.
Yep.
And we find out that Trench actually didn't go down with his ship, and here we're seeing kind of a file record. The Separatists and the Republic, they all have files on each other, and they're always spying on each other and everything. And such a cool little patch. I love that little patch on the side of his sleeves. Yeah. I'm either gonna print that out, or I'm gonna actually have to paint all three of the arms once I eventually.
You made those stickers for me, and I still have those.
Yeah, I do. I have some printed figure stickers because I work in the sign industry. So I printed them for myself for one day when I make this character, and that one day is today, folks. Yeah, it's finally arrived. You know, while we talk about these episodes, we try to, if we don't have them already, we try to make figures as we go. Folks, and maybe it's just because of my experience, don't expect to try to get something done as fast, but I got a good start on him, but it was in 2 days of work, 2 days of work, pretty good. But so here we see some of the special ops troopers. So cool. And this is another thing. This is kind of that same armor that is on Geonosis, right? That same kind of armor, but with a different paint job. And it would have been cool if we saw these right in the beginning of the show. And I think they're amazing. I thought this first guy here was Rex because he had the Jag eyes, on his helmet, basically. Yep. But it's not because he refers to him as Commander. And Rex is a captain. So it's not him. And by the way, that other guy is Spark. This guy here, I hope that I can get around to making him at some point.
I thought it was cool that Hasbro made a few of those guys.
They did, but they didn't make Spark. They didn't make this guy that I'm pointing at right here. They did make the guy that has his back turned to us. He was a Toys R Us exclusive, like in 2010, I want to say.
Yeah, it was a ways back. I remember.
Yeah, off the top of my head, folks. Sorry about it if I got it wrong, but yeah, it was an exclusive for a while, and it was such a cool character. Some of the decos that they put on some of these characters is outrageous, right? And here's a funny story. This is kind of off topic. I hope I'm not just going all over the place, folks, tonight. Hasbro had these on their HasbroToyShop.com for a long time. You could get this ship. And I just went back to go and purchase it, and it was sold out. And the final price, you ready for this? $5.
Yeah.
They were selling for $5. Yeah. Yeah, to get rid of them.
Do you have one of those or no?
No, I don't. No.
Yeah, we have one.
Yeah, there are just things I missed, in the show, unfortunately.
I took the Clone Wars line super seriously, where I just tried to get like all of it if I could. Whatever I can get, I tried to get.
It's funny. I passed up some things. There were things that I passed up because I felt like maybe I could do without it or something. But in the end, I was kind of sorry. I think if you pass up things in your toy collecting, you might regret it. But this is basically their droid fighter. That's basically a bomber. All right, and this is the stealth ship's driver. What a cool armor, right? Kind of harkens back.
Yeah, we don't have any other guys. Well, they put out that one figure that came in that Republic gunship.
Yeah.
Remember that clone pilot?
Yeah, it was
and it looks similar to that, but this one, it looks like more smooth, or it's not as crisp, or the lines are more pronounced on the one Hasbro released, where this has more like smoother. It's not the sharp lines aren't as sharp.
Yeah, and he almost looks like a TIE fighter pilot a little bit as well.
Yeah, it has a soft look to it.
They were heading that way, you know what I'm saying, or heading in that direction with the pilot or something like that. Definitely really cool looking. You can kind of see, has the same feel, has the short gloves and everything. Definitely not a clone pilot,
Not at all.
Yeah. Would have been cool, and it has that face mask that the later seasons of the clone pilots have. You see it there on the front. But they're basically getting ready to take off, and Yularen goes with them, basically. And they're out there, and they fire the bombers off, and they think they're going to hit them because obviously the bombers can't see them, right? And they just skim the surface of the ship, and they head down to bomb Bail Organa, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's basically War Games or Battleship or something like that. And this is our Easter egg of tonight. Do you know what's going on in this this scene that I have going on here?
Is that Bale?
Yeah, that's Bail there. Yeah.
I think he's saying that we need those supplies really badly. Make sure you get them to us,
Yeah.
or something along those lines. We need them
Yeah.
as soon as you can.
You're right. You're right. But the key is at the end, he goes, "Help me, General Kenobi. You're my only hope."
You're my only hope.
Yeah. Isn't that great?
Awesome. Yeah.
Because it harkens back to Leia saying it as well, calling him General Kenobi, and I believe this is where we get it. It's kind of cool. I thought that was sweet. So that's our Easter egg tonight. And here we see an open call from Trench. He basically figures out that there's no way they could fly that ship. Clone troopers could fly that ship because they eventually come out of Cloak and they realize that there's a ship out there. There's a Cloak ship. So he starts hunting them down, and he's like giving them a warning, basically. And this is he's like, it's going to be your doom.
He realizes that Anakin's the one flying when basically Anakin flies that ship into direct incoming fire.
Right.
Like he basically just sprays the area where they think Anakin is going to be, and Anakin basically just flies straight up into incoming ammunition, and and evades it all. So that's when he figures out it's a Jedi.
Yeah, it's got to be a Jedi because no clone trooper can fly like that. This guy's a tactical genius, basically, and it's a good thing you learn with him to kind of give him some insight on the stuff. But even Anakin was basically repulsed by this guy, this general, because he's just creepy. Who likes spiders, man?
Yeah.
Right. And even some of the trivia on StarWars.com, his name used to be instead of Trench, it was Charanch, but they changed it. They actually changed it from Charanch to Trench, just basically.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I learned that on StarWars.com today. You can go back on StarWars.com. I'll give them a little plug while I'm at it. And you can look at all the old episodes and everything, all the little featurettes. I get some of my information from there if I'm not pulling it out of my skull. We usually watch the episodes before we go on the show, don't we?
Yeah, I try to.
Yeah, this is kind of a post-game show, folks. So when we're talking about these episodes, we're going to be giving everything away. It's an after show treat snack, right? And
it's probably one of the best homages someone can do for the show.
I agree. Yeah, and not only that, we're giving you custom figures, right? Custom figures along the way. We even do shout outs, for friends of ours that or just customizers in general. Nobody's better than the other, right? Everybody does great work, right? It just depends on your level of experience and how you're doing it. But we've seen so many great things come through, and we're certainly going to give shout outs as we go. But this is kind of right at the end of the episode, getting back to it, and we'll get into my custom of the night. Basically, they realize that he's tracking their heat signature, right? Or their fuel signature or something like that. And he's going to try to blow up the ship. So what Anakin decides is he's going to let them fire some heat-seeking missiles at them, and he's going to turn the ship around and just basically skim off the ship and let the missiles blow up Trench's ship. And this has some after effects on Trench, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, we won't find that out till much later in the show's history, though.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's no way he's going to live that, right? There's no way. He was up in there, and they just all blew up. So this is basically the end of the blockade, and they get through so they can at least put the relief supplies on the planet. And like I said, we have kind of a happy ending here for this episode. We get to hear Yularen talk about how Palpatine basically said, "You're going to like this guy. That's why I'm appointing you to be with him." And they kind of talk about that right here, don't they, down on the surface? Kind of gives him a recommendation, if you will, right? Says Anakin's the best person. I'm going to put you with him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is the end of our episode, and like I said, definitely watch those in order. It makes so much more sense when you watch it like that. It's just so cool and everything. So now we are going to get into the process, the mad process of one customizer. Like I said, nobody necessarily does it like this, but I'm going to talk about doing Admiral Trench. And here is a picture or a reference shot of Admiral Trench. And I'm just going to run through the whole process, Darth Eddie, and you can lend some advice along the way. Basically, why the reason I'm showing this picture is sometimes it's important to get reference shots. And what I go about doing is I'll go online and I'll go to Google Images, right? And I'll look up the character and I'll find it, mainly so I can have the details. There was never really an asset for this character, was there? One of those.
No, the first 2 seasons didn't have assets. Like, I realized it wasn't until season 3 that they started using them, and man, it would have been so much easier for us.
Explain to people
assets to work with.
Explain to people what an asset is, actually.
It was basically, I have a bunch of them actually. I could grab a random one.
Let's see it.
I usually store them. I have like a special folder,
right?
And action figure concepts. Here we go. And I'll go to Clone Wars because that's where they first came from. Okay. And let me see if I can find a random one here. Well, yeah, here's one for Ahsoka's ship. Hold on.
Yeah, cool.
And that'll probably be a good thing to use. Okay. Application window.
Yeah, sorry to catch you off guard.
It's no big deal. Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
So, is it showing right now? No, I don't think it is.
No, it's not. It's not.
Right.
You have to click on it first and then share it.
Yeah, I think so.
Basically, images are essential to, maybe get all the details. It depends on how detailed you want your character to be.
Are you seeing it now?
Well, let's see here. Yes, I am. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it'll say things like engine glow is blue, texture detail on underside of the wing, and it would give you basically a color chart, like showing you what colors to use. Note that the laser bolts are green, but it was great because it was like an official. This is what they used for the artists actually from the show. As during development to kind of like clue everybody in on how everything should look.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was a pretty cool way to do it, right? And people like us, when we're going back trying to make these things,
right,
to have them available to us, so we get the colors right, the design, the special unique designs right. It's a pretty cool thing that unfortunately they didn't do in season 1 and season 2.
Yeah, and the pictures help the most. I think you should definitely start with a picture all the time, because it helps with my next step that I'm going to talk about, and I basically refer to it as mechanics, where I don't necessarily believe in making them bang up, throw them against the wall, toy quality that you can give to a child. Unfortunately, that's just me. I mean, that's me being an older person. I feel They're more of a display type of piece, and as long as you're making them move so you can pose them, you know, putting the action back in the action figures, you at least have that. But mainly my customs that I do, they're not necessarily for play. You know, you don't want to take them outside or anything. That's just how some customizers will do it. You know, not all customizers will make a custom that's not for play, or maybe they will, or maybe it's just more for display type of thing. I believe in having collections for all ages, right? Not just for kids.
Yeah.
Bottom line. So in my mechanics, trying to figure out how to build this, I look at his arms. If you're seeing his arms there, it looks like he has multiple joints in his arms, like he's basically a spider, right? So
Yeah, like it's almost like he has two elbows.
right away, I want to match, and you have touched upon this many times. You want to try to use only Star Wars products because you want them to match Clone Wars so readily, right?
Yeah, I try.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I have GI Joe parts, but
Mhm, mhm.
I haven't used them.
Yeah.
They're just sitting there.
So really, you can really use anything. And I actually used a couple different characters. I did use a Star Wars character for this tonight, but when you look at these reference shots, you can basically come up with what's called your recipe for success, right? And we'll move on to the next picture. There's just a headshot of him, and we're going to get right down into it. So basically, I used a Dexter Jetster for this character. And if you can see here, the reason I used it is because of this guy's body. I know in the past, people have used Orn Freetah's body, but I feel like even using that body, it's still not big enough, you know?
Yeah, I have a one that I bought online on eBay that was made from an Orn Freetah.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's I don't know. I definitely feel like it definitely could be more screen accurate.
Yeah, I was going to actually do the same thing. I was going to go the Orn Freetah route all the way. You know, I had him ready. I took all the elements off of him. Came with like a gown and whatnot. I don't have a picture of Orn Freetah up, unfortunately, but he came kind of similar to that look. You know what I'm saying? That feel.
Yeah.
You know that.
It was the jacket, you know, the way.
Yeah, right. And but I felt like it wasn't as big as I wanted him to be. And when I said earlier in the show that I made him too tall, I'm more talking about his height and not his width. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You want him to be big because he's just this huge piece of something, right? So I started with this body, and actually I used two of them. I used two of them for it, and I'll show you why here in a moment. But instead of using the head, I needed kind of a bowl-looking shape for this guy. I'll go back to it one more time. You see how his head is kind of like a bowl, right? Really, like just kind of a weird shape, kind of like a bowl, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, what I did is I used the head of this Nightmare Before Christmas Behemoth character. Because you can see it's kind of a bowl, right?
Yeah, he's got the eyes too, just the two circular.
Yeah, but I just completely grinded that off of there. I just mainly used it for the shape of it. And as you'll see, here we go. And here's a random rare shot of the what I affectionately call the Wampa Cave. This is my basement, my unfinished basement. And there's some spiders down there, that's for sure, down hanging out with my toys. But this is my workshop or my work table. I just basically use a card table. You're getting kind of a shot into my customizing life. And I have an Anakin right next to him. And what I did is I stacked two of the bodies on top of each other. And this is where I feel like it's a little too tall. I'm going to bring it down a little, you know, later on down the road. You have the ability to go back to things sometimes, folks. If you feel that maybe it's not perfect, and if you notice the feet here, you see the feet. That's actually part of the leg that this leg
That
up
was
here.
up higher.
Yeah, it's the same thing, and I use that to make his feet. So hopefully you all are still with me. This is basically how I go about building a character from the ground up, right? So here again, I'm showing you now I have a neck post on there. It's basically, there's a ball and peg, and that's the greatest innovation I think Hasbro has ever made. Don't you agree?
Oh, I love it.
The ball and peg head. Yeah. And what?
Yeah, I just got to make a figure today just by doing a quick head swap, and it was so just made it easy to get a post for the blog today. And
Yeah.
thank you, bro, for keeping that ball and peg.
Yeah, thanks, Hasbro. I mean, I don't know if people like us were a direct result of them keeping it, but they really answered a prayer by keeping that ball and peg in these modern toys that basically don't have the articulation that we kind of desire, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So here we go. Check it out. It kind of looks like that Disney character now. He's starting to turn into that, what is it, Hero or whatever it is. What's that Disney animation? That giant.
Big Hero 6.
Big Hero 6. Yeah, it looks kind of funny.
Now, did you Dremel that down, or is that like a sculpting medium on the front when you blended the two torsos together?
What that is, it's fix-it over top of it. So basically, I'll go back to this picture here. Basically, I removed the second torso and I put it over top the first torso, but I didn't grind it down enough to make it fit. So it still had that kind of inchworm kind of feel to it or whatever. Yeah. So what I did is I just put fix-it over it to give him that really full body, because as you see in my next picture here, his arms kind of go up the side of his head. Like I said, I'm not going to use that face, folks. Hopefully you guys are still with me. This is part of my madness. Here is a better idea of what's going on. I turn the head around, and the reason I have those big holes in there is so I can place those tusks, those giant mandibles that he has in there. And I'm basically going to do that. I also use several different mediums or epoxies on this. This first one here, this white stuff you're seeing, it's Fix-It. It's Fix-It Sculpt. And this is what I was referring to. If you see this, his arms kind of go in a row. So that's why I made these holes here. The beautiful thing about Star Wars toys is that at this point in time, from 2008 to 2012, basically, they had awesome articulation. And they were all like ball and pegs. And now they basically hold that hostage, don't they?
Yeah, they did eliminate that, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah, this element right here in the Anakin arm, it's just basically, it's like a ball and hinge, or it's kind of a hinge, a key ring with some plastic around it, and it makes for great points of articulation, great movement in your action figure. So what I did here in these holes, you're basically seeing kind of a little bowl, and then the darker area is where I drill in, where you can put a peg in there, right? Still with me?
Oh, yeah.
All right, good. All right, so my next process, I'm just going to keep going. I just took pictures the whole time. Check this out. If you're seeing that there, basically, that's 3 different legs, right?
Yeah.
And what that is, they put the same ball joint or different levels of ball joints, key ring joints, in the legs, in the elbows, in the shoulders. So I just decided to use legs for this first portion. And like we said, when I showed you the reference image, this character looks like he has a lot of points of movement in his arms because he's like a tarantula, right? So how many points of articulation do you think you'd have to put in Admiral Trench's arms.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 on. Oh man, I lost count because
It's actually
see your picture.
Yeah, it's 18 actually, and that's not including the hand joints. So what you're seeing here, this is kind of a crazy image. Please bear with me, folks. That once again, there's no real way to do this. You can basically take things like this. This is what I call Frankensteining things together. That's why you're seeing feet sticking out of everywhere. Basically, I'm just utilizing these things for their ball joints, for the hinge joints, right? So they can have points of movement, okay? So there's one in the shoulder, there's one in the elbow, and then there's another one.
Yep, in between.
In between, so that it can really fold in on itself, you know? And that's not including the hands. So here is the full build of what the arms look like. You can see all the points of movement. And this is similar to a character that I'm going to be doing in season 4. His name is Daron. Just a lot of points of articulation. And they, like I said, Hasbro holds these for ransom these days. It's like this is a selling point for them. And they mainly put them in 6-inch because they feel that, you know, we've seen a lot of 3 3/4 inch, but we're not necessarily ready to give it up, are we?
Not at all, especially when there's people like Trench that still need to be made.
Yeah. So I'm going to go back in and I'm going to cut this torso down a little bit because he's roughly around the 5-inch mark right now, and compared to a 3 3/4 inch character, he's a little huge. You put Chewbacca next to him, it's fine, but everybody else is kind of dwarfing around him. You know, it's almost like Krell. You know, you run the risk of making Krell a little too tall.
Yeah.
I'm working on a Krell also, again, a second one. And
nice.
Yeah, you run the risk of making him too huge, you know. Excuse me. But this next image that I'm showing, you'll notice that these are like Hoth boots, right? But I mainly glued those on there to pull that shape in, that furry arm, right? We got to build that furry arm. And what you're seeing with this character is I'm going to actually apply Procreate or Fix It or green stuff over these basically joints, these models. So I'm gonna add more to this element to make it come to life. You know, this is not the end result. In fact, I've grinded down some of this stuff, and this is where the Dremel comes into play. You know, you can still see clone trooper arms in there and everything. It's just an absolute mess right now, right? And this is why I call it my mechanics phase. You can, if you utilize these ball joints, right, you can find cool ways to articulate your stuff. And we've certainly done that over time, and we find more and more we have to do that with our, you know, with like Rebels characters and stuff.
Especially Rebels characters.
Right. You've done quite a few of those, haven't you?
Yeah, and I regret it in some ways.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just.
I like the end result, but I hate butchering good figures to give articulation to figures.
Right.
That part of me expects it to be there in the first place, just because how good we had it for so long.
Yeah, and a lot of these weird parts that you're seeing, they're a bunch of different characters that I have in what we call our fodder bin or our extra supply. I am a commissioner. You can commission me to make customs for you, but a lot of times I'm asking you to purchase figures for me to make these figures, like the recipe, like the 2 figures that I talked about, the Behemoth and the Dexter Jetster, mainly because they're hard to get anymore. Over time, I've picked up a lot of figures, but as customizers, our fodder bins can ultimately dwindle down. So here now, moving on, I'll try not to go too long on this. Hopefully I haven't lost everybody on this. Like I said, I work in the sign industry, and what you're seeing for his jacket is basically a vinyl banner material you make banners with, right? And I have found that this material makes for great clothing or great elements that you can add to the character, right? And I had recently done, what is his name? Pre-Vizsla. And I made him in his Concordia outfit, basically his governor outfit. And I just cut pieces of this to shape and added it or applied it to his shirt to make him have the details that are in the character. So I felt like utilizing this was a smart move. So I thought I'd use it again. And I believe it's going to turn out great eventually. This will all be blended in with the fur that's around his neck. But currently, it's still in the process. It's still in the works. I didn't actually finish this. This is a whip, and I'll show you a couple more pictures. So now what I did was I decided to go into the sculpting element. You know, I actually sculpted the head, right? Can you see that there?
Oh, yeah.
So I just basically tried to get some of the details that I felt needed to be on there. So those big holes that I had dremelled into the head, into that behemoth's head, were for these mandibles, these tusks, right? So I got a little bit more details. I have yet to sand anything down or anything, but I just made it as close to the design that I felt it needed. And this is gray stuff, or Procreate. One of the reasons I started using this is just look at that fur, like right through there. You know, you can just really get some cool details with some of this stuff. And it turns out great, and it dries faster than Fix It. Fix It, you get a little bit more.
Part about it.
Yeah, yeah.
I like it dries fast. It makes the day go by faster.
Yeah, me too, man. I mean, the white stuff that you're seeing on the body, that's all Fix It, and it took forever to dry. I probably would have got a little bit more done if I did the whole thing in Procreate, but I don't have enough Procreate to make this massive character. Like I said, he's about 5 inches, so currently he's a little too big, but he's huge. You know, he's huge. So here we go. We're getting a little bit further on him. I'm adding a little bit more elements. As you can see here, I started adding some of the fur. I'll be cutting this piece off here, this white piece in the front. It was just mainly to get kind of that shape. You know what I'm saying? That's why I use these old parts. Those are all Hoth boots. Old Hoth Rebel Soldier boots from the 90s, right? I have some old characters in my fodder bin, right? And I added some elements to his feet. I only have one toe on this side, and this is kind of the process that I go through. What are some of your processes? Do you feel you?
I mean, it's very similar. I basically do exactly what you're doing.
Excellent. Yeah, and I've just learned over time. Trial and error. I mess things up. Those key joints that we're talking about here with the arms, you could mess those up easily. You could pull that plastic portion off the key ring, and it's ruined. It's basically ruined.
Yeah. It doesn't happen often, but when it happens, it sucks.
Yeah, because you lose that precious piece, my precious,
Yeah, those joints really are precious, though, when it comes down to it. I mean, that's what we need to do what we do, and yeah, we don't want to lose one because we know they're few and far between, or they're going to be really expensive to obtain again.
Yep, that's true. So here we go, a little bit further. So I got a little bit more work done on the face and everything. The coat is just in there just for filler right now. It'll be all blended in with the fur and everything. And then I added, if I told you earlier, before the show, what I used here is the Power of the Force 2 prune face poncho, basically. And I cut it all up. And the reason I used it was it kind of has that shoulder type of mold to it, you know, but it's rubbery enough to act as a filler for the fur. So I'm going to go back in, and I just basically glued this stuff around his neck. Yeah, I can actually pull the head off and then pull this piece of plastic or rubber off of him.
Oh, that's cool.
But I'm going to actually glue it to the body and glue it to the coat. I'm going to cut a little bit of this off here, and I'm going to actually glue it to the coat, and then I'll go back in and do all those metals and whatnot.
Yeah.
Here's another shot, kind of a side shot. You can see how I kind of glue them together. It's just kind of like a, what would you say, like a wireframe for what I am going to put on him, which is kind of this big furry, the way they interpreted fur basically in the Clone Wars, kind of just this giant puff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be cool once it comes out, but there's another shot. And here's back with that that banner material I'm talking about. Basically, I cut it to the shape to make that that thing around his arm. And I made all that just out of cutting tiny little strips, and those little circles are dried Procreate. This is a technique that I use. I'm not sure if you do this or not, but like for those metals that are going to be on his coat and whatnot, basically what I do is I'll make like a roll of the Procreate, and I'll let it dry. And what I do is I cut it into little coins, or I cut it into round things. Whenever I need a little cylindrical piece, or like a button, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'll glue that. I'll use those little chopped pieces of these of Procreate as like an element. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's what those are, and I'll use them on straps and like buckles and whatnot. I'll cut them to squares. I'll cut them to circles. Just a little madness, a little walk through the mind of Peak Obi-Wan. And that's just the start of it. And the banner material, it actually takes paint and everything. So I am a fan.
Yeah, I can't wait to like try that. That seems really cool.
Yeah, and it's just kind of a double-sided banner material. I can get some of it. You can definitely get with other customizers and, you know, share resources, share tips and tricks. Hopefully this was all helpful for you. That's really the imagery that I have for you right now. Like I said, yeah, I did this in just 2 days, and you know, and you're not expected to do this in 2 days. You know, if you want to do a trench, you know, sometimes it could take up to a year to do a custom. It really, my advice is make it how you want it to turn out. You know, what do you say?
I agree. Oh yeah, I just keep at it. I've had figures that took me a year. I've had figures that took me a day. It's just, it all depends on it all depends on you and the project, because it's not even just sometimes the project owns you, and yeah, it takes you on a strange journey that you never expected to be on. And yeah, just don't take it too seriously. Enjoy the process, enjoy your final result, and you get it done when you get it done. But yeah, hopefully what Chad showed today, as far as like ways you can engineer things and ways you can fabricate things, just gives you an idea of, you know, not everything's going to look extremely perfect every second of the build. Like what you get in the beginning and what you get at the end are two totally different things, and especially everything in the middle.
Yeah,
but
I mean, sometimes people could probably come in and say, "Oh man, you're going about it the hard way. You know, you're doing it the hard way." You know, there isn't a real way to do it unless you're striving to, you know, break into that business. And maybe there are ways that you're supposed to go about it. as being, you know, I have an artist background. I went to art school and everything, and I have my day job is an art job. So I've always been around it, but there are steps you can do even if you're not a very good artist, you know, to learn how to do this the way you want them to be. And that's my advice. That's my advice. You know, don't have to be an artist.
I didn't go to art school. I don't have an art background.
Yep.
Everything I've been doing has been self-taught. So don't feel like this is something that's completely unattainable. It's, you know, you dedicate yourself to it, show a bit of passion,
Yep.
and you'll have great results.
For sure. For sure. Well, that is our show tonight, folks. Thanks for joining us. I hope that was helpful in some way. You know, we will continue to do things like that as we go through the show. We have a long way to go, folks. We're going to be going all the way to the Lost Missions with our customs, showing you stuff and showing, hopefully blowing your mind. Hopefully we give you some entertainment on this thing, and we so appreciate all of you watching our show, and we're just regular dudes, just enjoying the Clone Wars, Star Wars fans, really into it. So when I'm not here, you can find me on Facebook at Peak Obi-Wan Custom Creations, or you can find me at Clone Wars Custom Figures. I also have an Instagram that's going awesome, and that is Peak Obi-Wan Custom Figures, where you can see different shots that I do. Definitely give me a like at both places. Come visit, check out my work. I don't just do Clone Wars stuff. I do all different types of Star Wars stuff, from the trilogy and the prequels, and other things like droids, which is one of my favorites. So where can we find you when you're not on the show?
Probably the best place that you can get me would be over at the Customs for the Kid blog. From there, you could see all the work that we've done in what we call the action figure index. You can click on any of these pictures and it takes you to another area of the blog. I recommend just taking a tour of the blog. It shows you everything that's available on the blog. But yeah, then from there you get links to Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, Google Plus. Pretty much everything you need is on the blog. And there's a lot of great customs from a lot of artists from all over the world. So I recommend people go by there just to see all the custom work that's available.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, until next time, definitely check us out next week for episode 30, which is finally, I know we've done it so many times, it's finally Bounty Hunters. And it's,
yeah, I think we were just so excited about that one coming along.
Right. Yeah, I think one of the more one of the figures I'm famous for, because I've done a couple of her, is Sugi, and she'll be in that episode.
Oh,
so we'll talk about
I'm fortunate enough to have one of those.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I don't even have one. I don't even have one anymore. I've sold them all.
That's so sad.
Gotta make another one, man. Gotta make another one. Man, I wish I had a copy machine or something. Until next week, we look forward to having you along for the ride. Take care.
May the Force be with you.